my name is Mariel. In today's video, I will go through the reasons why I'm hesitating to use AI-generated images in the books I publish on Amazon KDP and how I plan to approach using artificial intelligence in the future of my publishing business. But before we get into the nitty-gritty analytical part of the video, there are a few things I would like to clarify. Number one, what I conclude in this video is purely my perspective as a small independent publisher. I am not an expert, so please take everything I say in this video with a pinch of salt. Number two, my approach to using or not using AI is mostly based on reason. I'm not against artificial intelligence. I think AI is here to stay, and it's something we should eventually adapt to. This being said, I think that when using AI tools to assist us in making products that are meant for commercial use, we should never forget to maintain the basic standards that customers expect from such products. Number three, my intention with this video is not to call out any self-publisher or YouTuber who currently uses AI-generated images in their books. I can personally think of 2 KDP YouTubers who use AI in a thoughtful and creative way to make amazing coloring books. The reason why I'm not doing what they're doing is simply a personal decision, which may not necessarily be the right one. Now that you understand the point of view that encompasses this video, let's dive into what my current situation as a KDP publisher reluctant to use AI is like. So this is me, a small, stubborn, old-fashioned independent publisher. A month ago, I decided to learn how to make my own illustrations for my books, and honestly, it's been anything but easy. I've been watching video tutorials, practicing digital drawing and painting until my fingers feel stiff. It's hard work and very time consuming, and I've had dozens of moments where I was tempted to just log on to Midjourney, feed it a text prompt, and let it do its magic. So why on earth am I stubbornly going against the grain when every other self-publisher seems to be taking the easy, efficient, technology-embracing path? Well, let me explain my reasons. These are the 3 key factors into consideration as I wait for the right time and the right way to use AI-generated images in my books on KDP. I'm going to try my best to go through each of these sections as briefly, as entertainingly, and as on topic as possible, so please bear with me even if they sound like the most boring topics you could possibly watch a video about. First of all, let's take a brief look at the current uncertainties surrounding intellectual property and artificial intelligence. On the one hand, we see AI companies who are responsible for either developing AI or who own AI image generators facing lawsuits. Some of these companies are being sued for using an AI software called Stable Diffusion, which is said to be trained with illegally obtained copyrighted images scraped from sites like Getty Images, Shutterstock, Wikimedia, DeviantArt, Tumblr, Pinterest, among others. In another more recent lawsuit, some other AI companies are being sued for software piracy, allegedly due to an unlicensed use of the open source code that was used to train their AI assistant. It is vital to note that the outcome of these lawsuits are likely to determine not only where we're heading with artificial intelligence, but it may also influence the severity or the leniency with which courts around the world are likely to look at future AI-related intellectual property violation claims. Another very real concern is that although copyright laws all around the world are trying to catch up with the rapid development of artificial intelligence, it seems like it's going to take a while. At the current pace, it is likely that the first law on artificial intelligence to come into force may be the European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act, which, according to some sources, might pass by the end of 2023, but it might not be fully enforceable until 2025 or 2026. That being said, in March of 2023, the U.S. Copyright Office issued a document called the Copyright Registration Guidance for Works Containing Material Generated by Artificial Intelligence. In a nutshell, what this guidance says is that number 1, copyright protects only the human-generated part of the work, and number 2, in order to receive copyright protection, the expressive elements or the parts involving the creative part of the work should be human-generated. To better illustrate this, the U.S. Copyright Office provides the following example. When an AI technology receives solely a prompt from a human and produces complex written, visual, or musical works in response, the traditional elements of authorship are determined and executed by the technology, not the human user. And further down in the same paragraph, the Copyright Office continues by explaining that when an AI technology determines the expressive elements of its output, the generated material is not the product of human authorship. As a result, the material is not protected by copyright and must be disclaimed in a registration application. However, in a slightly more hopeful sense, the US Copyright Office also provides the following example of when and how it is possible to copyright an AI-generated work after it was produced by the AI generator. A human may select or arrange AI-generated material in a sufficiently creative way that the resulting work as a whole constitutes an original work of authorship. Or an artist may modify material originally generated by AI technology to such a degree that the modification meets the standard for copyright protection. In these cases, copyright will only protect the human-authored aspect of the work, which are independent of and do not affect the copyright status of the AI-generated material itself. Regarding AI image generators, there is a tricky issue that I've only seen very few people talk about, which is that each of these companies have their own set of rules as to who holds the rights to the prompts and AI-generated images and how you're allowed to use these images. Let's look at a few examples so you get a feel of how different each of these companies operate. In this section, I'll be showcasing actual transcripts of the terms of services, and in the background, you'll listen to me summarizing in a nutshell what each of these terms say. The reason I'm doing it this way is so that the video doesn't get too long and boring. But if you want to read each transcript at your own pace, feel free to pause the video at any moment. Let's begin with Midjourney. Midjourney's terms of service states that by using their AI image generator, you grant Midjourney a perpetual copyright license regarding the prompts you input into their software and the images it produces through your prompts. So let me make a very quick side note here. I've heard people talking about copywriting text prompts to protect their Midjourney AI artwork. If this is something you're looking to pay money to do, I'd say you should think twice, because according to what we just seen, by using their service, whether it's free or paid, you're handing Midjourney a perpetual copyright license over the text and image prompts you input into their software. So my question is, would it really be worth paying good money to copyright these text prompts? Moving on, Microsoft's Bing image creator states in their terms and conditions that you're allowed to use AI creations outside their service for any legal, personal, non-commercial purpose. In other words, you cannot use images generated through Bing to sell. For our last example, let's look at OpenAI's DALLE, which has both a general terms of use and a content policy. According to this, you own the prompts you input into their generator, and you also have the rights to the output that DALLE generates. You're allowed to use content for commercial purpose, however, you're responsible for ensuring that the content does not violate any applicable laws. Additionally, DALLE's content policy requires you to disclose to your intended audience that the image you're using was AI generated. There are perhaps a dozen more AI image generators out there, and as you see in the previous examples, their terms of use are vastly different. However, something interesting I found was that some of these AI image generators include a disclaimer in their terms that says something along the lines of, due to the nature of this service, the creations may not be unique and you may get similar or same outputs as other users. This perhaps explains why when you search AI fairy coloring book on Amazon, Etsy, and Creative Fabrica, you might find similar looking products like these. The reason I mention this is to nudge you to be careful and to practice your due diligence. To wrap up this section, these are in my opinion the basic things you need to look out for before you decide which AI generator to use. I think there is a lot of speculation on whether or not KDP will allow AI-generated content on their platform. If you ask my opinion, I don't think KDP will make a public statement allowing or banning AI content anytime soon. However, if they do happen to make an explicit statement about AI, I think it's likely for them to say something standardly vague along the lines of, Kindle Direct Publishing embraces technological development and therefore allows the usage of artificial intelligence in books published on our platform as long as it doesn't violate our content guidelines or any applicable laws. On this topic, let's ask ourselves a hypothetical question. What if we really want to use AI-generated images in our books, but KDP decides to never express their stance regarding AI-generated content? How do we proceed then? I think the way to go about this would be to determine two things. Number one, what does KDP prioritize above all? And number two, what aspects on the KDP platform have survived changes and are likely to remain unchanged? I think we can unanimously agree that KDP prioritizes good customer experience above all else, and that KDP's content guidelines are likely to survive any substantial changes because, in principle, they're in place to guarantee a good customer experience. So using these two certainties, let's do a tiny exercise to help us determine how we would go about assessing if an AI-generated image would pass KDP's current content quality filters. Step number 1. Find an AI-generated image you would like to include in a book you're going to publish on KDP. If you can't find an image, let's borrow this one, which is a coloring page I found on Creative Fabrica. Now with this image, try to answer the following question as honestly as possible. Does this AI-generated image meet the following criteria? The point I'm trying to make with all this is that using AI will inarguably be efficient in helping you speed up your content creation process, but it does not work as a shortcut or an easy way to avoid complying with KDP's content guidelines. And I believe the same logic applies when approaching potential customers on KDP. Taking shortcuts with trickery and bad quality will not magically exempt getting your book criticized by paying customers. I think the fundamental problem is not that artificial intelligence is bad. The problem arises when AI is used in a problematic way. So, what are my plans in using AI in my publishing business? I am personally going to wait for some clarity to arise in the whole copyright legal arena, at least to the point of understanding what the general global stance is regarding AI and copyright. When deciding on an AI image generator, I will ideally want to work with a company that, number 1, has not been red flagged by the copyright offices in the US, EU, and the UK, and number 2, that does not make you give them a perpetual copyright license to the image it generates. I know it's been a hell of a long video to watch. I hope it was helpful or somewhat entertaining. If you made it this far, pat yourself on the back for being awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in my next video.